I just finished watching every single UFC pre-fight press conference for UFC 295 this weekend, and guys, today I'm going to be taking a look at a little bit of a summary from each fighter. How did they look? How are they speaking? Where their heads at? And we're going to take a look into this, and maybe we can learn something about the fighters, or maybe if you want to take a look at it from a betting perspective, if somebody's been doing this in training, who knows, or if they've had a little bit of a rough training camp like we're going to talk about with Mackenzie Dern, maybe that could help also. I just wanted to take a look at this, make it for an interesting video, guys. The one thing I do want to mention is we're not going to be talking about every fighter. While I did watch every press conference, there were some that were either just a couple minutes long or there was absolutely nothing to take away. For example, Alex Pereira. Shockingly, there was nothing to take away from that press conference because it was just the most generic questions ever, of course, and it was a little bit long because, of course, the language barrier. Nothing against him, but we're going to talk about most of these fighters, and timestamps are there if you'd like to skip to any particular part of the video, guys. We're going to get into it in just a second. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels. Apologies for that long intro. Let's get into it. Starting off with Benoit Saint Denis. Now, what I found interesting about this one is he is very aware, and he, of course, you have to be, right? He knows that this is going to be two brawlers just going at it, and he does think highly of Matt Frevola, so there might be a little bit of a respect there. I'm a little bit unsure on exactly how to take that away because something that I talked about in my breakdown for this video is I wholeheartedly believe that Benoit Saint Denis is buying into his own hype a little bit. I'm not saying it's not hype, like the dude deserves all the hype that he's getting, but I'm worried that he's just going to go in there and think that he's invincible against Matt Frevola. It seems like he is very, very aware of what Frevola does in there, so maybe, just maybe, he'll be sticking to a game plan a little bit more, mixing in the takedowns. I don't really know, for sure. But the only other thing in that is he was asked how he feels about people calling him, the most violent man in the division. And he weirdly responded that he's here to be a BMF and he wants that BMF belt. Little strange, but hey, you know what? He's accepting his violent tendencies. We'd love to see it, right? Moving on, guys, I want to talk about Jiri Prochazka. Now, of course, Jiri did spend a lot of time talking about his recovery and stuff like that, but there were a couple things that stood out. Now, he was asked about giving up the belt because it has been almost, I believe, 600 days since he last fought. Now, he said they had no problem giving up the belt because no matter who has it, no matter when he came back, he was confident that he would be able to regain it. So he didn't want to hold up the division. And honestly, I really respect that, especially if he's taken off for that long. I really like what Jiri Prochazka did there. Now, something that is very interesting that I didn't know is apparently he put in a lot of work for this camp with Gunnar Nelson because he wanted to learn Gunnar Nelson, and to use his words, he called Gunnar Nelson a mastermind on the ground, and he wanted to really get into Gunnar Nelson's headspace and see how he approaches the jiu-jitsu game. I don't know how well that's going to work out. I know Gunnar Nelson is obviously amazing on the ground, but I'm interested to see because Alex Pereira is a kickboxer. Will Jiri Prochazka come with a little bit of a grappling approach? I don't know. I just thought the Gunnar Nelson thing was very, very interesting. Now, other than that, Jiri Prochazka is very, very confident that he's going to become the champion again. He knows what's ahead of him. I really like where his head's at. And other than that, there was quite a few questions that was a little bit tough to answer because of the language barrier. He kind of took something that was asked that was a little bit wrong. But other than that, that was pretty much the main takeaway from Jiri Prochazka's press conference. Moving on, though, let's talk about my boy Diego Lopes. Now, because I was talking about this in another video, how this dude is just easy to cheer for. And I don't know really why, to be honest with you. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Now, the first thing they talked about is he is very happy and grateful that the fans love him. And there wasn't a ton to talk about whether actually looking in the matchup. They were talking about his potential star power. Now, something that was very interesting is he did mention that he really, really fights for his family. He wants to help his sister build his house or renovate her house or something like that. He wants to retire his mom. He was talking about stuff like that. And I'm just sitting here, I'm thinking just when you think you couldn't cheer for this guy anymore, he pulls out that, so he's been using his money to help his family, and he's very grateful to have all the fans like him. Yeah, that's what I just made me want to cheer for Diego Lopes more, man. But a guy with a motivation like that, where he wants to take care of his family and is grateful for his position, you gotta think his headspace is right. But other than that, he was talking about how in particular, he talking about his matchup. He was talking about how he is a complete fighter. He understands that two great grapplers going at it might make it end up into a striking match. And he also mentioned that if that happens, he's prepared because he is a complete fighter. So I'm feeling very good about Diego Lopes, man. I'm feeling good about him. Now, Matt Frevola had a very quick press conference, but there was one thing that stood out to me that I really did want to mention, actually. He talked about how dedicated to Ray Longo he is. Ray wanted him for these past fights to focus on his hands, even though Frevola claims to have so many more tools where he's I can kick, I can wrestle, I can do all of these things, but Ray is just, I want you to box, Your hands are crisp. You can find success with it. He ended up listening, and he's been seeing great success. And honestly, we have been seeing great success from Matt Frevola. So now, something that I really, really love is when fighters really listen to their coaches, especially a guy like Ray Longo, right? The guy knows all there is to know about MMA. He is a great coach. You got to listen to Ray Longo. So how many times have you seen fighters here? And this is something that really stood out about TJ Dillashaw. He was always listening to Dwayne Ludwig. That's how he beat Cody Garbrandt, right? And that's not even just the only thing that helped in his career, but it's weird because we see so many fighters not listen to their coaches in fights and just do something that's a complete opposite. And then they end up, in my puppies here, then they end up actually doing well, or they don't do well when they don't listen to their coaches. And when the fighters actually stand out, it makes me really respect them, first of all, because you need to show your coach that respect, but at the same time, it's crazy that so many fighters aren't listening to their coaches. All right, guys, let's talk about Jessica Andrade. So Jessica Andrade, as we all know, is on a pretty bad losing streak. It's not that she just lost a few fights in a row. It's that she's been getting absolutely dominated in those fights. So she came in, she understands the position that she's in, and she said that she's actively getting better. Something that she did note is that she is very confident that she has a striking advantage while Dern has a jiu-jitsu advantage. So that's a very good mindset to have, in my opinion. Well, I mean, it would be good to not go in there and be like, oh my God, my opponent's better than me at this, but you're self-aware, which is nice. That is very good. She said that Dern definitely has the advantage in the jiu-jitsu. So it's nice to see that where she understands, again, like I just said, where she's sitting in this division, but I don't know how much that is really going to help her if you're going in there, because I can see both the positives and negatives to it. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from here, because like I said, man, it's not good to go, oh no, I can't go to the ground here, but at the same time, it's good to be aware, right? So I don't really know what to take away from that. Other than that, nothing really came about with Jessica. She weirdly bonded over Mackenzie Dern with their divorces. She's like, I want to exchange information about our divorces after the fight. Now, and she was talking about okay, we can let our energy out about our divorces, which is just strange. Women don't work like that. Jessica might, but I'm talking someone like Mackenzie Dern. Just typical females don't work like that. It would work with guys. They're no Tim Elliott, man, because Tim Elliott can take his post-divorce, let out all that aggression, but girls usually, when they have divorce and they have all this built-up energy, they just go, it's not like they want to go and punch things, right? So I don't really think that's going to work for either girl, but it's just strange. We're getting towards the end of the video here, guys. Let's talk about Tom Aspinall. Now, what I found interesting is that he came back and he was sitting here and he said, in his opinion, he's fighting the scariest guy in all of MMA under the worst circumstances. So, first of all, something I love about Tom Aspinall, the dude has a very, very level head on him. So, listening to him speak is all, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good outlook to have. That's pretty much how I always see Tom Aspinall in these situations, but it's true, man. Sergey, I don't know if he's the scariest guy in the MMA, but he's definitely up there. I'd have to really sit back and think about it. Maybe it would be a fun tier list video, to be honest with you. Regardless, he's right about being under the worst circumstances. He's coming off the couch for this fight. Sergey was at least training for a backup spot, so that's a little bit of a tough one. Now, he is still confident that he could win, though. He said that he would not take the fight at all. He's not that type of guy who wouldn't take the fight if he didn't think he could win, so he's always been in decent shape. While it would be nice to have a 10-week training camp, he stays in shape, and he still thinks he can win. Now, another thing to mention, and this is pretty much it with Tom Aspinall, is he talked about his training and how he understands his body better because now he's training with heavyweights. But apparently, this is the first time that he's been training with heavyweights. I didn't know that. Maybe that's why the dude's so elusive and fast for the division, because he's been training with other guys. But he kind of understands. He said that he understands his body now. He understands where he fits at heavyweight. He understands if he's stronger than other heavyweights. He understands if he's quicker than other heavyweights. I don't know exactly where to take that, but according to Tom Aspinall, he understands his body, and he's very confident doing so. He always has a level head to him, Tom Aspinall. I feel like this dude, no matter what, is going into any bout with a good mindset. Now, guys, let's talk about Mackenzie Dern, okay? So, she spent a lot of time talking about Jessica Andrade's losses, even though it was a little bit of a long one. Other than that, she weirdly, again, used that divorce for motivation. Mackenzie Dern, there wasn't a ton to take away, except for one thing I'm going to mention. She's like, I'm going to use my divorce for motivation, which, again, strange. You guys aren't Tim Elliott. What are you doing there? It's not going to work, although she was oddly violent in her last fight, so maybe I'm completely wrong in that sense. Other than that, she actually opened up and said she didn't have a good camp. She didn't have a good camp until her final sparring session. She didn't feel good the entire time because of personal issues. Again, she's going through a divorce. She was showing up to the gym crying. She wasn't in the right headspace. And her final sparring session was the only sparring session where she really felt good. So I would imagine she's telling the truth, especially if you're going out. Why would you just make that up, right? Unless it's like a built-in excuse. But as far as I'm aware, Dern doesn't typically do that stuff. So that's something to keep in mind. Jessica Andrade is claiming that she's getting better, and Dern had a horrible training camp. So make of that what you will. It's just those two press conferences were really, really strange. But LA, you know what? At least we could take something away from it. But guys, with that being said, that is all the press conferences that I wanted to talk about today. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here. If you are new here and you enjoy the content, please consider hitting the like button, help the channel a ton, and subscribe. If you are brand new, we have this video out every single week after some press conferences on the screen right now. If you'd like to continue watching the Clenbat channel, there'll be 2 videos on screen for you to check out. I will see you either there or in the next video, guys. Take care.